Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Brady Owens here, and you are watching the very first edition, the very first episode of WSN The Vault. This show is where I am presented with a series of photos from wrestling's past, and we just dive in to the nostalgia as I talk about those moments that to some may be forgotten, to some, they probably live forever, but to everybody, we're going to discuss it. So why don't we jump right in? Again, I'm Brady Owens. This is The Vault. All right, let's look at the very first picture. Oh, so this moment was pretty dope. This is when Bray Wyatt won, I believe, his first WWE championship inside the Elimination Chamber. Man, this year was about 2016 when wrestling was really, really good. This is probably my favorite version of Bray Wyatt. In my opinion, I think this was the best. He wasn't presented as some paranormal kind of character that can't be defeated. This guy was just a legitimate bad A wrestler, and one of the matches that I've always wanted to see since AJ Styles made his debut in WWE was this version of Bray Wyatt versus AJ Styles. And I believe going into the Elimination Chamber at the time, AJ Styles was the world champion, and John Cena was also in that Elimination Chamber. I believe Dean Ambrose, who's currently known as John Moxley. Man, 2016 was just such an awesome time in pro wrestling, an underrated time in pro wrestling. I'm just looking at this picture, man. I need to go back and watch that Elimination Chamber match because it was pretty sick. And yes, I can say, this really isn't in the front, of my brain when I'm thinking about pro wrestling history. So I think this definitely deserves to be moved up the list a little bit. All right, let's go to the next photo in the vault. Ooh. I see we got John Cena kissing Maria Kanellis. Man, it doesn't really matter who John Cena is kissing. Every time he's kissing a female wrestler, it makes me feel uncomfortable to a maximum level. Whether it was, AJ Lee, Maria Kanellis, or even, Nikki Bella. I was just never a fan of John Cena having a romantic style story in wrestling. It never really fit well. Especially, him being a babyface is just, it just kind of had such a weird, odd feeling to it. So this picture is something that I'm definitely okay leaving in the vault. I don't really, there's not much more to talk about or discuss it. I don't even remember the story. I didn't remember the picture, don't remember anything about it. So why don't we just leave this one in the vault and move on to the next one? Ooh, Mr. Kennedy! Mr. Kennedy winning Money in the Bank, I believe WrestleMania 23? Yeah, because CM Punk won it in 24. So WrestleMania 23, I was huge on Mr. Kennedy, man. I think Mr. Kennedy was, he was awesome. Whether he was in his, storyline with The Undertaker, you had him and MVP feuding with Undertaker and Kane. He was a very dislikable character, which is what made him such a perfect heel. And what a lot of people don't know is Eddie Guerrero's very last match, not just televised, but his last match was against Mr. Kennedy on an episode of SmackDown. But Mr. Kennedy, who a lot of people know him as Mr. Anderson, what he goes by now, he won Money in the Bank, and reason this is probably in the vault where a lot of people don't remember is because he never cashed in. He never I mean, he never really did anything with it. What actually ended up happening, I believe, was Edge ended up somehow getting the Money in the Bank briefcase because I don't remember if Mr. Kennedy was injured or what, but he was Money in the Bank, won it, held it for a little bit, and then that was it. That was that. Nobody ever seen Mr. Kennedy with a Money in the Bank briefcase again. Nobody talked about it, hence why it's probably in the vault. Yeah, I mean, that's a shame. I think he would have, he's definitely a good character. I think it would have benefited seeing him hold it a little bit longer and actually using it. But yeah, I think he's the only one who held a briefcase who didn't cash in, not just unsuccessfully, but just never cashed in. So Mr. Kennedy winning Money in the Bank, I guess that could stay in the vault because there's not much to go back and watch, I guess. Let's go to the next one. Ooh. Looks like we have Hawkins and Zack Ryder. So these guys came in as some might not remember, as Edge heads. Where he was kind of like they were kind of like the lackeys for Edge. They helped take some of the weight off of Edge's play. I really liked them as a tag team. A young and hungry tag team, especially when they broke away from Edge. It's just bizarre as can be seeing Zack Ryder with long hair. It does not feel right, but yeah, I think they were an underrated duo, an underrated tag team. They definitely deserve to be out of the vault, and I definitely can go back and watch some stuff with the Edge heads. I think it's pretty cool how these two guys are still like best friends. They have a podcast together. They have I believe a wrestling school together. And seeing Zack Ryder, seeing him where his career kind of started to where it is now. I mean, he went from there to like the ECW, the WWE's version of ECW, which, he held the ECW World Champion, and he brags about it, even though it wasn't technically the real ECW World Championship. But, he did. He held the ECW World Heavyweight Championship. And then even going on to, the Internet Champion, the woo-woo-woo. Zack Ryder, he had some great... He made YouTube promos and stuff popular before, people even questioned the possibility of moving promos over to that. It was him, and then of course he had Miz and John Morrison around close to the same time, doing that before it was big. To now, doing stuff with NWA, and he went to Impact, he went to AEW. He has a strong career. People are talking about the possibility of him being back in WWE, and I think, I as Matt Cardona, I think that would be pretty cool. I think Zack Ryder, he's done about everything for the Zack Ryder character he could do. I'll leave that out of the vault. Go back and watch some of that stuff with the Edge heads, Hawkins and Zack Ryder. Let's go to the next one. Oh, this one is sick because a lot of people don't realize, you think of dream matches, you think of, one of the big ones is The Rock and Shawn Michaels, a match that, has never happened. Another one is The Rock and Bret Hart, which a lot of people think has never happened. But on an episode of Raw, I don't remember the month, but I know it was like 1997, we had The Rock versus Bret Hart for the Intercontinental Championship, and it delivered. That is definitely one that should be out of the vault, and go watch it. Just go to Raw 97 and flip through there until you see Bret Hart versus The Rock for the Intercontinental Championship. It was a young Rock. He was hungry. It was such a good match. I can go back and watch that match multiple times. This one 100% deserves to stay outside of the vault. Watching that match, it does make you question why they never went back to them, because it was such a great match. Imagine having that kind of story feud with, Bret Hart and The Rock. I think that would have helped elevated, both people's careers, because you saw what Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels feud did for Bret Hart. Bret Hart, one of the best wrestlers there is, but as far as personality, he lacks there. So when he's in the ring with somebody who has such a charismatic personality, then magic happens. And you saw that with Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart. So imagine The Rock and Bret Hart having a storied feud. Bret Hart would probably be even a bigger name in the world of pro wrestling than he even is, today. Unfortunately, Bret Hart's career kind of cut short to the person he dislikes the most in the world, which is Bill Goldberg. So maybe we could have ended up seeing something happen. But yeah, again, anybody in the ring with Bret Hart can make them look like $1 million. And in this match, Raw's War 97, Bret Hart made The Rock look like gold, and it's devastating we didn't get to see a actual storied feud with the charismatic Rock versus the unbeatable technician and Bret Hart. This one deserves to stay out of the vault. Y'all need to go and watch this match, please. Alright, let's go to the next one. And next one is Mordecai. When I was younger and I was watching this, I'm not gonna lie, dude, Mordecai scared me, bro. He was, kind of like it's almost like they wanted to build him as a new version of The Undertaker, and it just didn't work. And unfortunately, there's not too much I remember about Mordecai. I know he wrestled under a couple other names, especially like when the WWE version of ECW came around. But Mordecai is one of those that everybody remembers, but they remember nothing about him. So I can say he can stay in the vault. I don't remember any matches. I don't remember any feuds. I don't remember anything. And what's sad is when he was wrestling, I was most into wrestling at that point. So unfortunately, I don't have much more to say about that. Mordecai, buddy, you can stay in the vault. Alright, let's go to the last one. Yo, I'm excited to do this one because this one was everybody talks about TLC 1 and TLC 2. TLC 2 being one of the greatest matches in pro wrestling history. And then there was a TLC 3, which was, the same in TLC 2, where it was, Edge and Christian. You had the Hardy Boys, the Dudleys, and on an episode of SmackDown, TLC 3, where I believe it was like Chris Benoit and maybe Chris Jericho were added to that, making it a fatal 4-way, which was really good. But this one, which is TLC 4, which a lot of people don't really recognize as one of the major TLC matches, the reason is because this actually happened on an episode of WWE Raw. It was not a pay-per-view. It was not a big moment. You know how many Raws there are? I think it was Chris Jericho who said, if you wrestle a match on WrestleMania, well, there's only a handful of WrestleMania matches. If you wrestle an episode on Raw, there's 50 plus Raws, in a year, every single year. So it's less memorable. And unfortunately, that's the case with this match. It was a fatal 4-way TLC match, and it actually was made, they were doing with Eric Bischoff Raw Roulette at the time, where you spin the wheel and you see what the match is going to be. And so they were determining how Kane and Hurricane were going to defend their WWE Tag Team Championships, and it ended up being in a TLC match. And I believe that night, Hurricane was actually jumped, so Kane ended up being the sole person on his team. So it was Kane versus Bubba Ray and Spike Dudley versus Christian and Chris Jericho versus RVD and Jeff Hardy. I'm not going to say who won the match because definitely deserves to stay out of the vault. You need to go back and watch it. One of the most underrated matches that I've ever seen, heard of. I'll tell you this, as soon as we're done filming here, I'm going and watching this match because it was so good. It was so exciting. It was so, I mean, of course it was exciting. You got this amount of talent in a big match like that. Also, after that match, I don't think there was another TLC match in general for a long time. So it was kind of like, you had your 1, 2, 3, and then 4. And this was, the fact that it was just on a regular episode of Raw is mind-blowing. But man, what a good match. This is my favorite version of Kane, by the way, this one, and then of course the unmasked Kane. The first time he unmasks in, I think, 03, his feud with Shane McMahon was such an amazing feud. Yeah, and then this Jericho and Christian, they were, comical wrestlers who were really good in the ring and hilarious outside of the ring, the Canadian duo. RVD versus Jeff Hardy, two of the best high flyers, in the pro wrestling history. And then of course Spike Dudley, who's he's like a crash dummy. He'll do anything. And then Bubba Ray Dudley, one of the best storytellers in the business. Go back and watch this match. I don't remember. I think it was like 2003 or 2004. Raw Roulette version of WWE Raw with Eric Bischoff in charge. I also remember Jim Ross was actually sole commentator. I can't remember why, but I remember this match there was only one commentator, and it was Jim Ross, and he knocked it out of the ballpark, if I'm remembering correctly. 100% this match needs to stay outside of the vault. Go and watch it, enjoy it, and you're welcome. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that's all that has come out of the vault for today. Some good things, some bad things, some things I want to keep out of the vault, some things I want to put back in there, lock away forever, and throw away the key. But yes, thank you guys so much. This has been the very first episode, first edition of WSN The Vault. This was wrestling. I am your host, Brady Owens. Please subscribe, like, share, comment. Comment what things you want me to pull out of the vault next time. Comment things that you liked about some of the matches that I've shown, some of the things you disliked, whether or not you think one of these things should be left in the vault or stay out of the vault. But until next time, I am Brady Owens, and you guys have a wonderful day. Stay too sweet.